It's not desert season without a campfire or Chupacabra off-road. Now, here's your host, Nick Olson.
What's happening, everybody? Welcome back to Chupacabra Off-Road's podcast. This is Around the Campfire, and we got the gang back. We got Wes, Andrew, and Nick.
How's it going, everybody?
What's going on, guys?
Wes chiming in from Las Vegas, Andrew from El Centro, and myself here in Peoria, Arizona. And Chupacabra Off-Road, we are an off-road brand. We sell off-road accessories for side-by-sides. We talk about all things off-road on the show, mostly of the side-by-side flavor. And I got a lot to talk about today, guys, because Chupacabra Off-Road became a legit race team that weekend.
Definitely got our desert badge.
So if you guys follow us at all on our YouTube channel, we put out 4 videos from the UTV World Championships, as well as a shakedown video the week before. So this will be a fun time. We were all 3 at the race. Wes raced in a different car in the Pro Turbo class, and Andrew and I, of course, were racing together in Unlimited class in our first big race, man, our 3rd race ever in the race car. And as a whole, like I felt like we showed up and we showed that we had some speed to be. We weren't just out there, you know, like we were running at a good pace and had a lot leading up to it. So it's a really exciting weekend. And overall, I'm just smiling like ear to ear thinking back about the experience. So it's been a long, hard road, especially if you guys have been following the channel, the race car, the ups and downs, a lot of downs. So finally to get a big up and get this car screaming was like, honestly, guys, it was a dream come true.
Yeah, we were all relieved, believe me. I can say that I was relieved also.
But you didn't walk over to the pits and set the pit for no reason?
Yep. I was like, this could be a long day for me being in the pits, but no, you guys did really well. The car ran great.
One lap. Yeah.
That's true.
So going backwards before the race, starting off, you know, Wes pre-ran the course before us. Andrew and I got out to the race event just to do the poker run, and it was illegal to do the pre-run. But Wes, you pre-ran it, and Wes, you race all the time. Like you've done the whole series, you've been everywhere. What was you and your team's impression of this course, of being a new venue, new race course?
Well, it's kind of a funny story. So those who don't know, I race with Sierra Romo. I'm her co-driver with Romo Motorsports, and her dad also races a Pro Turbo class with us also. And they actually went out on the weekend. I was actually out of town on a family trip, and I just got a phone call saying, hey, you really need to go pre-run this. We really need you to see it. Sierra was really worried, like, hey, I really want you to be able to see the course. So me and the wife hopped in the car, drove down to Havasu, and we did it the Monday before the race. Just in my Turbo S, and man, I'd heard little things. I'd heard it was slower, or it was more like King of the Hammers. One of the best acronyms I heard for it was King of the Hammers and Parker, and I was like, okay, and went out pre-running. The first few miles didn't seem like it was that bad. And, you know, there's a lot of big rocks and things like that, but the Martellis and the UTV World Championship organization, they only had a small area to put this whole course in. So if you guys had seen the map, it would basically was like when you see a heart monitor going, it was just up, down, up, down, up, down, up and down these washes. And it was very interesting compared to some of the courses that we'd seen. It was very interesting. There's some sections where I think our top speed was 77 miles an hour, and that was coming down a wash. And I think we were probably averaging about, 50-minute lap times for a 29-mile course. So it's not very fast at all if you think about it. And you had rock crawling. You had a couple of rock gardens there that it would be good enough for low range if you were going slow, just because you're going a little bit faster in the race cars. You probably didn't need to use low range, but pre-running. And the cool thing about it is that I've never really raced the Mexico races where you can pick a line here, pick a line there. This was a true VCP race. And so there was lines, and there was people taking lines, and believe me, we found some lines during the race day that made us happy, missing some of the rough stuff that we had to do, and coming up over some rises, things like that. And it was pretty fun. Yeah, I mean, the pre-run was a little crazy. It had me a little worried. Just went in with the mentality that we just got to finish. You know, it was going to be 5 laps and 29 miles. Didn't seem like it was that far, but after pre-running it, I would have been okay with 3 laps. That's how I honestly felt. I obviously called Nick right after I got done, and I said, man, guys, this is going to be a rough one, you know.
Yeah, I think I remember you called. I remember you didn't say how long you thought the lap times were going to be. So I think until a day or two before we even got there, we're thinking 30-minute, 30-mile laps. We're talking 40 minutes a lap. This race will be like 3 hours. And could have been further from the truth. I think the winning lap times, or most people's average lap times, were from the 50 to 57-minute range, I'd say. Almost an hour.
Yeah, I think the fastest lap in Pro Turbo was like 48 minutes a lap. There's somebody else in the NA class that happened to post like a 46.5-minute time, which is completely impossible. So I don't know how that person did that. I don't know where they could have got that fast. But like I said, it was a VCP to VCP race. But I can remember giving you that call, and I was just like, man, these are going to be hour lap times is what I figured. I figured 29 miles was going to take us an hour, that's crazy. I mean, if you think of us racing 11 hours to go 550 miles to Vegas to Reno, I mean, we wouldn't even be close to that.
Yeah.
I feel like the course was very keen to UTVs. It was made for UTVs, really tight, really technical. So really felt like it was for the UTV market, I guess you can say, because it is UTV World Championship.
Yeah, a Class 7 truck in some of those washes wouldn't even fit.
I don't even know how some of these four-seat CanAms were fitting through that.
Yeah, there was a couple of the big 4-seat CanAms. I know Comiskey had their car there, and they raced both days. They raced in your guys' class in Unlimited, and they also went and raced in the Pro Turbo class and was talking with them. And, he said it was really tight, but, you got to do what you got to do type of thing. After the race, though, I did hear, I don't know if it's fact or rumor, I don't know if Mark Tellers will ever respond or see this podcast, but basically that was almost all new trail. Like everything up those washes, we were just running up a wash. That wasn't a wash that was driven a lot or anything like that. I'm sure there had been vehicles on it in the past, but it was fresh cut washes. Like we were the cars cutting the trail in those washes.
Yeah, that'd be good to know. I mean, there's a maze of trails out there to begin with, and all you have is through locals, like no standard wash. There's trails everywhere there. So that'd be interesting. I'd imagine maybe not all of them because there were so many, ridge lines and stuff, but that'd be cool to know. And speaking of leading up to the race, around the same time, the weekend before the race, I did a proper shakedown or a final shakedown, and we kind of put a lot of elements of our car together, and it was a really good experience out at Geyser Loop, a place we test all the time. And we had made a lot of improvements from the motor and the tune, the new tires. We put a new steering rack in it. All these things added up to a car that just felt like I could drive it more predictably, faster. But the car did heat up. So we knew that coming into this event, our motor temperature was going to be something we're going to have to be concerned. But so when Wes said it was even tighter than what we thought it was like, okay, this is a huge, tailwind for us, because now this is something where long, hard pulls that are really going to get the motor hot are not going to be as bad, and we can maybe make it through without having to, unfortunately, hopefully not let off the gas and basically just lose time. So, all that goes through, we get the car all buttoned up. Brant American Engineering did a great job prepping, gets it all dialed. We load up, we head out there, and as soon as we get there, we jump in Andrew's car, and we did the poker run, which, Andrew, that's pretty much your first time off-roading out in Havasu, right?
Yep, first time out there in Havasu, and it was definitely a different terrain than what I'm used to, a lot of washes, a lot of, chop and chatter. I'm used to out here, Superstition, Octio Wells, 2-track, that's not as chattery as it is. But Poker Run was definitely a good one. 65-mile loop, took us through a lot of different terrain. Even got the car down into low range to do some rock crawling, which was kind of cool, out towards the back of the mountains. But some fast sections, some slow sections, some really flowy, fun, up and down. But yeah, definitely a good poker run. I felt like it was a well thought out course.
Yeah, it's cool how much smoother it got when you got away from town, and then how much the terrain changed, how less rocky it got. And, it reminds me, Wes, like I know there's a rumor that maybe they'll run that full 64-mile loop, something like that in the future, maybe next year if we're lucky. And, you know, we've all done like off-road racing, like works racing on dirt bikes. And you think about a small loop, a ton of people over the same miles, the course just gets nasty, which we'll get into in a bit. But I mean, let's just say, Wes, knowing what you know now, and both of you guys, if the course is 65 miles next year, just instead of 30, I'm not saying the course is going to be half as rough, but it's going to be a lot less rough just because you have twice the mileage with the same amount of cars going through it.
Yeah, I could definitely make a difference. I just have to look back at Parker. So everybody talks about Parker for their chatter. So when you race at Parker, the first 17 miles is basically up a wash. And by lap 2, the 3-lap race, that 17 miles just seems like forever. It's that chatter, and everybody talks about it. And then lap 3, it's even worse. You start getting that chatter. So I think it's going to be similar terrain as that when it comes to the washes. I honestly don't mind the big bumps and the rough like that, because that, I feel like the car's actually handling it, and there's a reason. So I don't know. I mean, it just depends. Those chatter washes, they come from people just on the gas and every tire just digging at a different rate of speed. And so, I mean, if they do that 64-mile loop, which it'd be really cool, because, you know, you'd be out farther. I think they'd have to have another pit out there somewhere to give people the opportunity to finish. But that chatter is just not going to go away, I don't think. I think it's there to stay. I think that, especially if they open it up for pre-running, we got to, you know, before race day, that there had been hundreds and hundreds of miles and hundreds of vehicles pre-running that course. So it was open pre-run. You didn't have to register. So you got to imagine it wasn't just racers. It was all your locals and everything like that. So I don't know if the pre-run's good or bad. I think it saved the organization some time. They didn't have to go out and mark their own dangers. They put it all on the racer. Some racers like that. But it'd be interesting to see. I saw that they've already released the dates for next year, and it will be in Havasu. So we'll see what they do. I'm pretty sure they'll switch up the course, though. They'd have to.
Going back on Wes right there, they came out with the dates and everything, but they're seeing it as foreseeing the future being in Havasu every single year from now on, which would be really cool. You know, that 65-mile course would be cool. How we set up the race cars is we set them up. The harder you drive them, the better they work. So when it was in the tight and slow, choppy sections, you know, you're just getting rattled.
Yeah, no doubt. And before the rattle got too bad, we did qualifying. So I don't know how many races you guys have got to qualify for, Wes, but that's kind of more of a reserved for the big class 1s and trophies, right? In most desert racing. Is this a rare deal that we get to qualify, right? As a UTV?
This is the first time that we actually had qualifying, which I was when they announced it 6-7 months ago that there was going to be qualifying, I was pretty excited about it, because you're right. I mean, you got your trophy trucks, your unlimited buggies, 6100s usually are the most that qualify in Best of Desert. Best in Desert has offered a couple more classes. I think class 10 and 6200 are both qualifying now. The thing about the Pro Turbo production class that I raced in, though, is that if you had a bad race the race before and you don't get a top 10, you basically get into a draw, and you could be anywhere from 11th to 65th in starting position. So there's been rumblings back and forth in other organizations about, hey, can we qualify? But I don't think that'll ever take place, just because it's extra money, things like that. But it was really fun. I mean, it was really cool to go qualify and know that you're not lining up against a person that maybe not be as fast as you know, or if you were that person that's not very fast, you don't have to really worry about, you know, this fast guy coming up and creaming you or things like that. And that's really cool, because as the race develops, if you're a faster guy and you draw further in the back without a qualifier, and you draw further in the back, you catch a lot of slower vehicles, and sometimes to get around them, you have to play, you know, bumper cars a little bit. And I don't know. I enjoyed it. I'm glad that we were able to qualify. It was a cool experience. Made you feel like a big dog, like you said.
Yeah, you know, I think it seems like it's like the elevation of the UTV racing. They've gotten so popular, and I thought that was a cool perk too. Like you said, I bet a lot of racers are kind of on the fence about it, because at some events, if that requires you getting out there an extra day earlier,
and that's the thing
for your crew and rooms and all that stuff, and adds up the cost quite a bit.
It really does. A lot of us say, hey, instead of doing a draw, they should anybody who raced the previous race should start where they finished. And then those who didn't race the previous race should be put in a draw. And I agree with that, because, you know, you kind of earn your spot, you know, and if you finished 11th and by 10 seconds, you're not getting shafted, you know. But we'll see they might make some changes. I mean, not,
So fast forward to our qualifying run. They gave us all a little sight lap. It was 6 minutes roughly. Fastest was about 5.5 minutes. So we all do a long little loop going slow, and then Andrew and I swear there was like 5 cars behind us. We waited and waited and waited, and by the time we got the checkered flag, I was just hot and sweaty. I was sick of sitting in the car. I'm like, let's just go. And we were ripping. I thought we had a really good run, and I've never driven a side-by-side that fast ever. But at the same time, I didn't feel like, I think we got up on 2 wheels once maybe, but it wasn't something like I thought we were on the verge of crashing.
Just once?
I think it was once or twice.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, my driver, she, if we're not on 2 wheels in a corner, I'd tell her to speed up, man. I've gotten used to it. First couple of races, it scared the crap out of you, but you get used to looking at the ground or looking at the sky.
See, we're new to that, or I'm new to that. So,
Yeah, that's awesome.
Times, we probably did it a lot on race day too. I know we did it a lot on race day.
Oh yeah, definitely.
We had a great run going, and then our car went into limp mode in the last section. So we posted the video. I think honestly we lost somewhere between 10 and 12 seconds. But either way, we finished. I don't know what we're finishing. We had about 20 cars in our unlimited class, which is what we race. And I don't know how fast we are or how slow we are. I was hoping top 10,
right.
8th through 10th. And then we're in a decent starting position, and it's a long race anyway. And we get done, we load up, we're like, geez, and we knew the car was going to get warm. We thought we had checked the cooling system where we had 2 people go through and burp it and make sure that we had plenty of coolant in it. But we sit down for lunch, and I'm like, do we even do this? Can I get my money back? Should we go spend all this? Literally, we're at lunch. I'm bummed.
Making phone calls. What should we do?
Yeah, we called the tuner. We called some friends. Look for everyone's advice, which luckily is a total game changer when you're in this game, when you have people, like Randy Romo, that can really calm you down or just guide you and say, chill out. It'll be good.
Yeah.
So that's what
Calm
Randy
down,
said.
bro.
But our tuner said, hey, if you can't fix your cooling, I wouldn't even show up to the starting line. So, we have these big seats that we're getting out of the car that obstruct a lot of airflow. We're thinking about switching up the radiator setup potentially, or at least adding a fan. So, the good news is the car cooled way down as soon as it did get hot. And we're like, you know what? Let's put some water wetter in it. Let's make sure we burp it. And the course is tight. And let's just do what we can do. We're already here. Let's just go for it. So as we're doing that, we're just taking our time, double checking. We decided to raise the right eye a little bit. And then we see that we qualified 4th. So total from should we even be here? Seriously, all this time money in the car's not even dialed to oh no, it's game on.
It's game on 100%.
We got 4th and we lost at least 10 seconds. And I knew I blew some turns. No, what's up? I'm ready. Let's do this.
That's awesome.
We're here. That's how I felt.
I was really, really stoked when I saw that and saw you guys got 4th. That's freaking awesome. Because at that point, I was busy doing other stuff, so I didn't know you went to limp mode or anything. So, but yeah, man, that's awesome.
And
it makes you feel good.
Yeah, we're burping the system right as this is happening, right, Andrew? Andrew's brother came, who was a huge help. Mike,
whose idea was the water wetter?
So at first it was my brother's idea. Was like, hey, water wetter, distilled water. Let's give it a shot. That's the best lubrication, the best cooling is distilled water. Has the highest boiling temp. So for lubrication, you just add a bottle of water wetter to it. Claims to cool your car at least 20 degrees. I don't know if it cooled it that much, but it definitely was my brother's idea. And then we got confirmation from a couple other people, such as Randy.
Shout out to Mike Garvey.
Yeah, seriously. So
he's a tuner guy. He's a car guy. He's more in the on-road scene, but he knows his stuff. And he brought it up, and then your buddy Aaron Johnson, who helped us drop off graphics, guy knows what he's doing. And he works with a CanAm race team and said that's what they run.
Yep, exactly.
Oh,
so
okay,
a lot of people recommended it. And so we went to AutoZone right there, grabbed a couple bottles of water wetter, went to the store. You can get distilled water for $1 a gallon. So we got a bunch of gallons of distilled water, took it back to the house where we're staying, dumped all the coolant that was in there, flushed the system probably about 3-4 times with distilled water, make sure it was 100% no coolant in it. And then we filled it up and ran the distilled water and water wetter and hope for the best.
Yeah. How'd you guys qualifying go? I mean, you guys qualified a couple times.
Oh, here we go. Hate, hate, hate. Well, so I mean, we were back in the back with you waiting in line, and then we started realizing, like, because we were told that you were going to qualify by class, but according to how you registered. Well, we registered like the night before. We didn't tell anybody we were coming, anything like that. We knew we were going, probably about a week before, but we just didn't register until, honestly, I think they said they registered like 2 a.m. and the qualifying was at 11. But then we started seeing the organization just wasn't there. So you had all these people like going up to the front, and then there was NA cars going, and I'm like, what in the world is going on? Like, so we kind of like weaseled around because we wanted to get in front of the NA cars because we knew we'd be faster than them. And so Sierra and I take off, and they were doing 30-second intervals at that time. And the course was like, what, 3.2 miles, I believe? Isn't that what it was?
Yeah, 3.5 or 3.2, something
So
like that.
I would have to say probably about mile 2.5. We started getting real thick dust, started seeing a guy in front of us, blue lights. And right where those last zigzags are and those big boulders, that one left-hand turn, we didn't even see those big boulders in that left-hand turn in qualifying, the big giant ones. We missed them I don't know. We didn't even see them. And I'm on the siren. I'm hoping this guy's just going to jump out of the way. And because honestly, I felt as though we were super fast. And Sierra just got back from a trip like the night before. So she was on for like 3 hours of sleep. So she felt like she was super slow. But we get all the way to the finish, and I'm on the horn for this whole time, just hoping this guy, there's nowhere to pass him. And we're right on him. We go over the finish line. He's right there. And we're not happy at all. I'm pretty livid. One, because we caught the guy. Two, because I know we were fast. And at that point, Josh Martelli, or Matt Martelli, sorry, Matt, he saw us. He came up to the car because we kind of pulled off like we were going to go tell him, like, hey, we want another run. Because a lot of people don't understand is in qualifying, not only are other cars, hold you back, but dust also. That's why they give you time. Yeah, you're going to get a little bit of dust here and there, but once you catch another car, it's taking away your time, So he's like, yeah, I saw it, you guys. You were on the siren. You were in their dust for a while. They're radioing from the top of the hill. They said that you were right behind them, and the guy didn't get out of the way. You were right there for as long as they could see. So we go line up again. And at this point, they're already into the NA cars. And we're waiting our turn. We take off again, probably about mile 1.5, where there's that hard right into the wash. There's a car flipped over, blocking the course, dead stopped. We're dead stopped. So then we're like, now what the freak? So I told her, I was like, we're just going to put it in. So we putted it in, went back to Matt again and said, hey, now there's a car turned over. I was like, we're catching these cars though, because we were already catching a little bit of dust. I don't know if that guy saw us line up next to him and he was pushing too hard, whatever. So finally on our third run, we asked the race director, because he was at the start line, we're like, hey, can you have them give us a few more minutes? I was like, we're turbo. These guys are a little bit slower. Not that they're worse drivers or anything like that. They just don't have the horsepower, So he shut it down for about 3 minutes, and then we took off. And I thought we did really well. I don't think we were as fast as our first lap, just because there was things in that dust that we didn't see that we were checking up for on the third lap. And like you guys, I mean, I was thinking, oh, we'll be decent. I figured there was we had like 50 cars or something like that in our class. I was thinking, as long as we're top 15, I'm fine with it. It is what it is. And like you guys, we're kind of down in the dumps a little bit. And Sierra's like, there's no way we're top 20. Like, there's no way. And we were at the store grabbing a couple things, headed to dinner. And as we're headed to dinner, all of a sudden somebody screams from the back of the car, and I was driving, almost crashed. You hate when people do that. And Sierra's like, we qualified second. So we qualified second. And yes, I understand there'll be people listening to this that don't agree with that we got 3 runs. But at the same time, if it would have happened to anybody else, same thing. You know what I mean? Oh, yeah. It is what it is.
Other people got a couple extra runs too. So it's just the whole point of qualifying is right to give everybody a fair shake. So
yeah, and that's the thing is you want to get your best run so you can qualify. And we got Doug Fortin, who's a legend in the sport of off-road and kind of new to the side-by-sides. He beat us, and it was like 2.7 seconds, I think. So we would have won $5,000. And we had one guy that he just couldn't get over it. After the race, he'd started commenting on some Facebook feed or Instagram feeds and blowing up some stuff, and he didn't understand. And it actually ended up being the guy that we caught in the first run, and he was a little upset, saying some things. And I mean, I don't know if he's going to listen to this podcast or not, but I kind of tried to be civil with the guy and be like, hey, you know, this is what happened. Well, come to find out, he was broken. He had a broken charge tube. So then I was really upset because I'm like, dude, you shouldn't be upset at all, because he was upset he didn't get a second run. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, well, if we would have got a flat, we would have rolled, we would have had a broken charge tube like yourself, we wouldn't have got a second run, because that's a mechanical. It's mm-hmm. not – that's our fault. And he didn't understand that, and I basically had to explain to him, like, look, we should be the ones upset, because I feel as though he cost us $5,000, because I think our first run we had it won. You know, and people aren't going to understand it. I get it. And then, you know,
you guys could have blown your charge tube in the second or third run.
Yeah, they could have, you know, and that's the thing. We had to damage our car twice as much as everybody else. And speaking of damage, we came in and our left rear wheel was wobbling like crazy. We ended up bending a hub, which, you know, those are cast. So bending them, you know, it takes a lot of hit. And so we actually had to go through and fix a bunch of things that night to get ready for race day and stuff. So overall, we were super stoked. It was really a good experience for Sierra and myself and the whole team, and to have that. And yeah, so it's good.
Yeah, overall cool that I think the promoters did that. I thought that was cool and fun, and then gave us a feel of like life in the premier class and their strategy, right? You can kind of simmer down and make sure you don't damage your car, because what's worst case scenario, going to a big race and then you do something major to your car or something where you're working on it all night, which I'm sure happened to a few people out there.
There was a guy actually brought a front A-arm kit from 56 Industries. They're local here in the Imperial Valley. So they hit me up the morning I was leaving. They're like, hey, have you left yet? I'm like, I'm leaving right now. They're like, hey, you take this set of A-arms to this guy? He busted him up during pre-running, pretty much broke his both lower arms and had to get a new set of arms sent out to him. So I know he was in the sportsman class, but UTV rally. But yeah, he got it fixed and was out on race day.
So moving on to the race day, one thing I loved too was we were on Friday. So Wes and the whole crew was there to help us because their race wasn't until Saturday, and we didn't race until 2:00. So that was really cool. And then for us, you know, we had a smoother track, of course, but you know, we showed up, we're excited from qualifying. We get the water wetter in the car, you know, good qualifying position. And we're sitting on the starting line. And I, again, you know, asked Randy, you know, Randy, what do I do? Like, do we just try to stay in the people in front of us, try to stay in their dust? He's like, dude, it doesn't matter what they do. If you get past, it doesn't matter. Don't even think about it, whether you're in their dust or, you know, you get past several times, like just get through the first 2 laps and then reassess, right? And we'll see if we can pick up the pace from there, if you're comfortable or whatever happens. So, you know, I listen to Randy. Randy knows what he's doing. So we took off. I thought we were going in a pretty good position, but I thought we were babying the car. And then I think mile marker 11, right, Wes and Andrew, you start jamming up a wash, or it's like the biggest, longest run where you really kind of stretch the legs in the car, and it was still smooth. First 2 laps. I think our car got to like 222, but as soon as we get to like, we're thinking like 224, 225, we're really going to let off because we don't want to hit limp mode. We had to let off the gas to jump back into the rocks, slow way down. The pace goes down to 8 miles an hour. And then the car just like that. So
yeah, we're down in the 190s.
That's awesome.
So we get through lap 1 and we're like, okay, like this isn't even an issue for us. Like our biggest fear, you know, and there were some rocks, we're avoiding everything. We're just kind of like tiptoeing, but like running a really, in my opinion, like smooth pace. I think 2 guys passed us, Andrew, on the first lap.
Yeah. So two guys passed us on the first lap, and I kept telling Nick, hey, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. We'll catch them. It's a long race. We're going to have a long race. And, yeah, they got past us. You know, they slowly crept away. They didn't really just take off on us. So we were in their dust pretty much the first whole lap, second lap. You know, we got towards the end of the lap, probably mile marker 22, 23, when we started going back up into the bigger hills, and it was more of a slower section. We would catch them. And I think we passed one car back in that section. So we were back back into our I think 5th position or something like that. So
yeah, and I think our second lap showed that we were slower. I think I was just kind of like being too slow through the tight, slow stuff where there was 2 sections on a 30-mile course that you really had to go slow up and down. And to us, it seemed like that's where that passing happened, because then you didn't have dust and things were happening. Cars were broken. So we made it through the second lap, but we were on our gas gauge out of 1 out of 100, we were showing 40. So we made the decision to go in, and we thought we could take all 11 gallons, which is what we have. We have a quick dump can of 11 gallons. And, had we kind of looked at it differently, we probably could have at least gone extra to lap 3 to get fuel. But we thought, let's be safe, make it through 2 laps. We'll get an eye on the car, right? We'll double check. So we pull in from lap 2. We get a fuel splash. We kind of shake the car. Everyone's looking at everything. We didn't bring up heating. Wes was on our kind of main point guy in the crew chief along with Brent. He didn't ask. We didn't tell. It was just all gravy.
It was asked not to you guys. I probably got asked about by 4 people, in our pits that, knew that we'd had heating. You guys had heating issues. And they're like, hey, Wes, ask them about the heating. Or they'd be like, what did they said about the heating? And I just told them the same thing you just said. They haven't told me, I'm not bringing it up, because a lot of people don't realize that when you're in a race car, half the stuff you don't hear, and you don't really have time to answer questions like that. The questions should always come from the driver and the co-rider to the pits, and the answers, should go back to them. So, they wanted me to ask, and I said, I'm not asking. It's obviously not a problem. They're running. They're doing good. Let's just keep going.
Yeah, exactly. So then, we get some gas. Things are good. I'm feeling really hyper-focused. I'm just trying to think about, having all this newfound confidence because we qualified 4th, and we're still running for sure in top 10 at this point, even though, we were a conservative, whatever that pace you want to call it. But it was a lot slower than qualifying pace, and it was, stable and easy. So then lap 3, I'm like, okay, let's try to move and stop being such a wuss on this slow technical stuff. And when we came in through right at the very end, a couple guys passed us on lap 2, Wes, and Andrew's like, you got to pick it up through there. That's where we kind of tested our suspension. The car can work better, carry a little more momentum and speed through that section. So lap 3, we started going, we were flowing. And at this point too, I thought maybe we'd have caught a lot of the slow non-turbo cars in front of us, but there was very few cars on the track, going back to your pre-run, you're like, hey, there could be some bottlenecks. So the whole first lap, I'm telling Andrew, get ready to get on the horn. If there's a bottleneck, how do we get up and around it? But really there was not that much drama. And as we talked through it, I think a lot of that was attributed to qualifying.
Yeah, definitely. Let me cut in there. After lap 2, when we're coming out of the pits, Wes had our lap times and our lap times. And he came over the radio and told Nick that he dropped his lap time by 2 minutes. Nick decided he wanted to drive really fast because he was fired up. So I was
that was after lap 3 where Wes gave us the lap time, and we had dropped 2 minutes from lap 2. And
well, let's give credit where credit is due. I'm good at saying times, but my wife is the time guru. She does the times and she has it down pat. So Mary's out there and she tells me what to say. I might bend it a little bit. I did not bend that one. I'll tell you right now, I did not bend that one. You were 2 minutes faster in that lap time, but it's easier to say 1 minute and 30 seconds than 1 minute and 37 seconds, so.
Right.
But you guys, you really picked it up that lap and,
And I honestly,
that
was the highlight of the race for me. I got so fired up. I was yelling and cussing, and I was ready to go get everybody. I could smell blood in the water. I just wanted to, nerf everybody out of the way. I was going for the victory at that point. I wasn't, but I was really jacked that as the course gets rougher, that we had picked up the pace. So lap 4, I felt like we had a heater. Lap 2, I thought we had a really good pace. And I think at that point, probably some cars had started to break. And I think it's safe to say at lap 4, we were in 4th position, right, Wes?
Yeah. So when you're headed out for your last lap, you were right behind 4th, I believe, just real close. It was hard to kind of tell because I think the 5th plate or a car behind you, we didn't know right away. But I mean, the way people were braking though, I was stoked because I'm thinking even if you went out on your last lap in 5th place, you have a huge shot of being on the podium because every lap there'd be a car coming around. The guy that was leading the first 3 laps and he was out, he'd put in some real fast laps. One of the last laps he came in, his right rear wheel was like completely canted over. And the next lap, he didn't come in. So, but then he got it fixed and he started trucking again. So cars were braking left and right. They were in the pits. I mean, they were not coming back around. You know, you start memorizing which cars in which order. And, you know, you guys had a definite shot at a podium, which is, you know, I don't want to pour salt in any wounds, but that's just racing. But you guys did really well, you know, you really did.
Yeah, and that guy Wes was talking about, he had a black and orange CanAm. I don't know his name, but he rips. He had I think he had the top qualifying time, and he had broke somewhere. I wanted to say lap 3, maybe, Andrew, and then he passed us and like left us like we were standing still. And like you said, Wes's wheel was like it was hanging off the back of the car.
Yep.
And you could tell his car was like not really. It didn't seem like it was all really, really beefy. And Andrew and I kept saying, like, this guy, if he gets it to the finish, he deserves to beat us because he's a flat out, probably the fastest driver in the class. Like,
it was funny because when he came through and his wheel was, you can know, I looked at Brent and Brent looked at me. I'm like, that guy's not coming back through. He's not coming back through for sure. There's no way. Like, and he went out for another lap, and I'm like, either he has a terrible pit crew that didn't see it and didn't say anything, or he just didn't care. Because he went back out, and I'm like, oh, he's going to be stuck for a while.
No, yeah, we saw him. He was parked behind a tree. We passed him, and we saw his wheel. Even off the start line, his wheel was starting already to get canted in, and we're like, I don't know. He was the fastest qualifier. I thought he broke his car in qualifying, but he showed up on race day the same way. So
that was the only way.
You know, I don't know the guy's name.
We're not going to outdrive him.
Stephen Poole.
Cool.
Oh, that's who it is. Do you know he registered for both days also, right? He was supposed to race.
Did he?
He didn't make it to the start line, though.
Well, shout out to you, Mr. Poole. You're a hell of a driver. You were.
Yeah, he was definitely on it.
He was on I was on a Facebook page, UTV Side-by-Side Racing on Facebook, and he was commenting on another car that's getting built right now on that page. And he said that his car's all gusseted through Geyser. So,
oh, wow.
So he's running stock chassis, just all gusseted it up. Nothing too special on that car.
Dude flat out rips. And so we get to lap 4 and we're going good. And like you said, maybe one of those guys breaks and man, like mile marker 4, you get up to this nasty wash you have to climb up, and it was so chattery. These washes, you're like, how does every bolt not just rattle out of your car? Like, and again, like, this whole thing with desert racing and a UTV, like, you know, I'm a dirt bike guy, so the bike never fails. You fail. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And it's a different game where you've got to figure out your pace and figure out what the car can handle. And unfortunately, we lost a bolt in our driver's side A-arm in the front. And it was ironic because we were actually going slow when we started to feel the issue. We caught somebody in the dust, and all the nice breeze we had all day really died down. So, like, it was so beautiful right when the sun went down. It was an awesome experience. And then we had no dust. So we had to go really slow up the wash. And the next thing you know, like, the car is really hard to turn one way, but not the other. Then I kind of start to blow off a turn, and I'm telling Andrew, like, is it a flat tire? Is it a bent hub? I thought it was maybe a tie rod. And, you know, we don't know what it is, but we're in this tight wash for, 2 miles, would you say, until you come up to checkpoint 2 at mile 6?
Yeah, about 2.5 miles, maybe even 3. But yeah, it definitely was. It was nasty. It was chattery. Like, at one point, I had to even grab my helmet strap because it was just digging into my chin so bad. It was bad.
So right at this time, the sun's going down, right? And it's almost pitch black. And, you know, I'm like, well, Andrew, those guys are up there at the check 2. Let's just pull up and yell at them and ask them, is our front wheel wobbly or what's going on, you know? So we do that. They're like, yeah, you know, you need to get out of the car. We get out of the car. At first we see the spindle is really rolled over. So I'm thinking the upper uniball broke, you know? It looked really weird when you first looked at it. And then Andrew noticed that the bolt was gone. And total rookie mistake, we didn't have a bolt. But even if we did, we wouldn't have been able – we did have a ratchet strap to get that sucker back in place to put a bolt through it. So we radio in. Luckily, we had great radio communications to you, Wes. We told you that we identified the problem. You guys found some bolts, and you sent it in the race car behind us at your pit, which it only took like 15, 20 minutes to get to us. And unfortunately the bolts were too big. They wouldn't have fit in anyway. But I even tried when I got home. I couldn't even get a punch in there. And unfortunately, being at race mile 6 of 29, like, I really hated having a DNF and not finish that last lap. It kills me. I just want to get finishes. And, you know, that probably would have been the difference between our 10th place position and I think our top 5 still had we just limped around that last lap.
You know, I think we could have been – we're so close to that podium spot. If the car would have stayed together, I think we would have been on the box. I really do, because at the end of the lap, we really were catching a lot of people, especially in our class, towards that end of the lap. So, unfortunately, a little $3 bolt ended our night.
Mm-hmm. And the guy
it's racing.
Second place, the Funnies VP car, the blue Razor, he passed us on lap 4, and he went away from us. We got stuck behind this slow guy in a wash who wouldn't get out of the way. And after we bumped him, this Funnies guy caught us too, and then he bumped us, so we got out of his way. And he creeped away from us. He ended up getting second place. So that just goes to show you, I mean, he started probably back from us. He had a faster pace than us. But that was lap 4 as the race was really, really mature, that we were legit. Like you said, if we limped it around, we would have at least got 4th or 5th.
Yeah.
Well, considering this is your guys' first real big race against a real big competition, I mean, honestly, some of those guys in Unlimited are really fast, you know. Obviously, that Pool guy is fast. I've seen that Funnies car at several races, so they race quite a bit. And
ZRP
so it's nothing to be ashamed of. It sucks, you know. It sucks. I can remember you called me on the radio, and I was bummed because it's just like, if it was going to happen, you knew it was going to be on the last lap. And, you know, it's just one of those things. It had been a while since I'd been in a pit and had to hear that on the radio. And, man, I don't like that. Like,
what was your saying? What did you say in the video?
That's racing. It's not always rainbows in the sunshine.
There's a lot of rainbows and there's a lot of sunshine until that bolt came. Honestly, it was a dream come true for me, like finally getting a car that was competitive. And then for some reason, I figured out how to drive competitively, like you said, against people who have raced for at least dozens of times and know what the pace is. And this game is so much about seat time, in my opinion. It's just like moto. You really got to put the seat time in, figure out what you're capable of, work on building your speed without flipping your car, you know, try to figure out what your car can handle after you have good preps. And that just takes time. That takes racing, right?
I think you have a really good style, though. I mean, there's a lot of guys out there that just mash it and go. And, you know, sometimes that works, you know, but a lot of times that doesn't work. You know, you got to learn how to protect your car. It's really hard in these short sprint style races. I don't consider this a short sprint style just because the lap times are so long. But when you think about Laughlin, I mean, even Rage of the River, that's a sprint, man. It's like you have no choice but to just keep that pedal mashed and go if you want to do anything. But when you get in these longer races, you know, and you guys start doing longer ones, 250, 300, 500 miles, that's a long race to keep a car together, you know. So it's important to, you know, make sure that you race your style. I know that for us in our car, that we have a certain style that we fit. And I love those races when it fits into our style. You know, we can hang with the best on any style, but there's other races where it's like, I know that this is us. Like, so
it's your time to shine.
Super pumped for you guys, though, man. I mean, I was bummed. I was really happy to talk with you afterwards, Nick, and see that you weren't like down in the doldrums. You know, I was really excited about that because that made me not feel so bad. Especially, it's like you said, it's always the $3 part that ends your day. But it could have been worse. You guys could have been going 70 miles an hour down the wash, and that thing could have buckled underneath and sent it over. And, you know, instead of one lower arm, you could be in it for a lot more money. So it's just one of those things. I mean, we had experiences like that also. I mean, our race wasn't that perfect either. So
yeah.
Let's take it back a little bit. So we get to checkpoint 2. The guys there at checkpoint 2 are cooking hot dogs. And let me tell you, I was excited after being in the car for 4.5, almost 5 hours. You know, that bratwurst that he had, some mustard. Oof, that was super good.
Yeah, shout out those guys at Check too.
Yes,
awesome. They said they watched our videos and they were hilarious. They were real ball busters.
Lifesavers.
Yeah, and he kept saying we're gonna cook some dogs soon. I'm like, no, we're gonna get back. We're gonna get going, like, you know. And then after a while, we kind of realized we weren't gonna make the last lap. I'm like, you know what? The beer in the cooler back at the pit is still gonna be cold. And then at that time, he has the dog done, so it's like, And it was
you have to.
So shout out to you guys. Hope to see you guys again. And they were really rad and as helpful as they could be considering they were officials.
Yeah, that's an important thing because there's a lot of spectators out there. You got to make sure that they're able to help you. You know what I mean? You don't want to get a DQ because somebody's like, oh, I know what I'm doing. And you find out they're not even official and then you get a DQ. So
yeah,
like there's somebody in our class that got DQ for cheating like that. So
we did ask that question when we got out of the car. Hey, can you guys help us?
Yep.
And they're like, yeah, for sure. All right,
should be the first thing out of your mouth. And if they say no, say, then get the freak away. Don't hand me a tool. Don't hand me nothing because somebody's always watching. And then at that point, you don't know where you are. You could have fixed it and went going. And then the guy that got fourth place could have said, I saw them getting help and, protest, and it turns into drama. But
I know that whole lesson, I'm going to be better prepared. We're going to have more parts. Like one thing I was thinking about, the jack we have on the race car is just an FOA screw jack. And in my opinion, that the setup of that is really only good for a tire change. And I was thinking, like, if I had that Traco jack or the All German Motorsports where they have a cup on the top, you could lift the whole front of the car up or the rear of the car by the bumper, which is way easier if you do have to do an axle, if you do have to do a tie rod. We had a tie rod on the car. We had a Heim for the tie rod. We had tools. We had an impact. We did take the tire off. We had a lot of stuff, but this race was so brutal that we should have had more parts. And I feel like one of those jacks that is tall enough to get the whole front end up on the front bumper, same on the rear bumper, would be great because it'll also do just the tire change quick in a hurry.
Well, you do have your rubber jack stand always, and that's what I call it. So like for an axle and stuff like that, you can always just take your spare off. And what I like to do is if I need to brace the car, I'll jack the car up as high as I can, take the one tire I have to get to the axle and take the spare, shove it under the car, and then you have your jack stands. And you let the jack down, and you have a working thing. That's just something that I've learned, at least with the UTVs. But yeah, obviously a different jack would be good too.
Yeah, because even you look at it macro, like at that race, we could have spent a half an hour on the car, and as long as we got it buttoned up and limped around the course and just got in with a horrible lap time, we would have got
top 10. We
would have got 5th place instead of 10th. It was a graveyard. The cars that were coming by after it was dark were going so slow, and there was so few of them that course really just like it decimated so many. And I was just telling Andrew, like right before it got dark, like this is going to be interesting at dark because even though we had gone over these rises and these blind turns in the slow section 4 laps in a row, you still second guess yourself that, it goes off to the right and, it goes off to the left or it goes straight, and at dark that would have been extra scary in a race car where you don't have that visibility of like our stock racer.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that was our race. Thanks to you guys. It was awesome. It was still an amazing experience. We learned a lot. We gained a lot thanks to our friends, thanks to Randy and Brent for engineering the car, all the things we learned from Randy and what to do and who to take our car to get it set up. And it made me feel like we made a lot of progress ever since that car was built, a lot of drama. So we got the right people touching it. It's like running a business, running a race team. There's so many variables to it, but it was literally a dream come true for me. So moving on, that was Friday night. Saturday morning, the rally class race. So the course got hammered again by 40 rally cars, racing 4 laps. And then, Wes, give us your little roundup of how your race went, racing against the big dogs, qualifying second.
Well, our race didn't start on time. Did yours race pretty much starting on time, right?
Yeah, I think you guys were 2:45, 3 o'clock by the time you actually started.
Yeah, we were supposed to go off the line at 2, and then I don't think we went off till at least 3. They had some of the little races going on and got a little bit behind, which it happens. I get it, So cool thing is, we lined up second, so we were second row. Doug Fortin was going off by himself. We were next to a kid that I'm not too familiar with, but you got to respect anybody that can qualify that fast. I'm not too familiar with him. I think he comes from more of the rocks, more of like Keenan Hammers racing, 44, that type of racing. But yeah, so I just, let her know like, hey, this is what we're going to do. It's a long race. There's a lot of things. There's day enders on every corner. Just need to be careful. And honestly, I felt that we were going to pull that guy off the line. He wasn't a 2-seater, so I knew that we'd have that problem. But once our car wound up, I thought that we'd get around him. And right off the start, like I said, takes off. He gets about a wheel in front of us, and he he pushes right over in front of us and like just right on us. And at that point I was just like, it is what it is. Let's let the guy go. We didn't want to give him the bumper then. We could have gave him the bumper probably like 3 times before the first left-hand turn. There was about half a mile up, and it's just like, let's just settle in because they're coming up to a bunch of rocks. So we settled into our pace. We knew that there's going to be a lot of fast guys coming. We knew that there was a lot of people that weren't happy that we had qualified second. So we had that in the back of our head too. But you got to kind of, like you said, you got to just throw all that out the window, race your race. That's the only thing you can do. And so we settled in, and Ryan Piplick, the eventual winner, he was a row behind us, along with Wheeler Boomer. He was a row behind us with them. They're both real fast guys, and they've both come from Works, and very familiar to us, and we know that they're fast guys, and we give all those guys credit, but we're just running our race. And I think Piplick probably caught us right around mile like 18 or so, maybe 20. It was one of those last washes coming down, and we let him go. And he's kind of like a guy that just goes, like, he'll go and he's not afraid. I always joke with his co-rider who I'm buddies with, that Barnum, that better you than me, bro, because I couldn't ride in that car because it would scare me to death, and he takes off. And then I think Boomer got us probably around mile like 25 or so over those big hills, the slow stuff. It seemed like you said we were being kind of conservative on that stuff because we didn't know how the race car was going to react to those ups and downs. And then it's really hard to see over the dash. So when you're zoomed in on the GPS, you kind of get at least for our Lowrance, you get that lag. So I'm calling them out as best as I can, but it's better to see them. And so we're just running our race. Got passed, I think, by one other guy by the first lap, and we were just rolling. And we're going, feeling good. The course was destroyed. Mile 2, where you head up that wash, it was so bad on the first and second lap that I was in my head, I'm just like, man, I hope I can do this for 5 laps. I mean, it was so bad that I would grab my chest going up that first wash like this, because I'd already tightened my straps down. I knew I was tight, and I was grabbing my chest because it felt like my heart was shaking inside of my body. And luckily it was mostly straight, so I only had to get out a couple notes, and Sierra drove really well. Then right past where you guys kind of broke, mile 6, you go through that little tight section, and then when it starts to open up, there's those 2 lines. It's either a right line or a left line. Well, on the first lap, we took the right line, and I didn't like it. Like I thought I remembered from pre-running that the left line, I took it and it was faster. So lap 2, I tell Sierra, I'm like, and I was kind of late on, we're going up over, because it's come up over the steep rise, and then it's right or left real quick. And I'm like, no, left. And boom, she hit a rock. I take full responsibility for it. And we're going. She's like, it's going to be flat. And I'm like, no, it's not. There's no way. We're going. And probably about a quarter mile, I'm like, it's not flat, as we're like this. I'm like, it's not flat. It's not flat. Of course, it was flat. So we get out, and I get out and start going to work. Get over there. I like to always pop a few lugs and leave one lug on, grab the jack, and then start jacking it up. Well, we learned that jack prep is a very important thing. So we use a scissor type jack that we beef up, extend the arm out, put the socket on the end of it. So it's all the same 19 mil that we use for our lugs. And I was like, man, is my gun dead? And is a fresh battery? And I checked the battery, and it just wouldn't raise the car. So I got it up as far as I could, and I just start digging. And I get the tire off, get the new tire on, and I'm putting it on. I try to release the jack, and the jack won't come down. And it's just, and I'm like, what in the world, And it's a snap-on impact. I've never had problems with it. I freaking boot that jack. I start just kicking it. I freaking kicked it out, get it mounted up. She's like wondering, like, what the heck? Where have you been? Why is this taking you so long? Like, I think she was posting on Instagram, like, hey, new co-driver needed, like, I don't know. So, so anyways, I'm freaking out because I'm like, stupid jack, and you get mad when you get called to service as a co-rider, you want to be fast because, and we got passed by a few people. I think Robbie went past us, Jake Carver and Sims went past us, all fast guys that, and we get going again, get on the radio. Hey, I need a new jack. I need, this, da-da-da. And get done with lap 2, stop for a jack, take off. Lap 3, it must have been right in that rough stuff, right before the 2 finish line hills, hit something. And I was like, it feels really weird. She's like, I don't feel it. I was like, no, I can feel it. Like, I think we might have a flat or something. Something's on the left side. Well, we pulled into the pits right then, had a radius that we'd hit something, it was bent, and we also had another flat. Now, people will be like, oh, what tires are you running? This is the first flat tires we've had in a year and a half. So it's like, it happened. I think we earned them for sure. So our pit crew is great. They fixed us up. And at that point, Randy, who was on fire in a rental car, we call it, he's in a rental car 2-seater because he had sold his car, and Randy's just on a mission. Randy's such a great driver. He's very, very calm driver. He doesn't get upset or anything like that. He just drives, and he drives fast. And he puts his equipment to the test. He was right in front of us. So we followed him all lap 4, was in his dust the whole time. And it was kind of fun. We've done this several times with Randy where he's been right in front of us, and it's fun. And talking afterwards, he could tell that we picked up our pace. The previous lap before we broke, he's like, I knew you picked up your pace because, I was trying to catch you guys and I couldn't. And then when he got in front of us, he's like, Matt, his co-rider who was riding with him, Banuelos, it was like, I saw you guys a couple corners and I knew you were coming. You guys right there, you're coming. And it's kind of fun because it lifts both our paces and we had a good time. And then going out for our last lap. And at this point, we're beat to death. Track is beat to death. And I think we were like 9th or something like that, maybe 8th, corrected time. And we'd kind of just figured, okay, we're just going to roll in. We're going to get our finish. Top 10 at Worlds, we'll take that after the problems that we've had. And right around mile 18, just up a wash, it was that same wash where it's just a long pole. It was like the only uphill wash that was kind of smooth to where you could just rip and go. And we passed Carver. He's broken. I'm like, oh man, here we go. Maybe we're gaining positions, and all of a sudden we're just driving and we're going in a straight line, and all of a sudden the front right wheel just drops off and freaking rocks. Everything is shooting up in my face, and I'm like, get over. And she's fighting it, and she gets us over, and I'm like, I was like, we might be done. Something broke, something gave way. So I hop out, and the lower ball joint on the lower arm connecting to the spindle, that bolt had sheared. Now we use the best bolts and everything, but sometimes it's just, so it sheared off. So I'm like, okay, grab all the bags out, grab the bolts that we have. I ended up having not that exact bolt. It was a little too long, but it's threaded. The only problem is to get that bolt out and to get the new bolt in, got to take the whole axle off. The recovery guys like we had great experience with them. They showed up. Guys like, hey, do you want some help? And I was like, can you help? And he's like, good that you asked. Yes, I can help. So he was just handing me a couple tools when I needed it, and pulled the axle out, get the bolt changed. Knowing that it wasn't the actual bolt and how beat up we are and how far we had to go, still another 10 miles, we just kind of got it back together, radioed in. At this point, the race was over. Even Randy had finished, who was right in front of us. So we just limped it in. We actually stopped one time and helped another guy that was having problems, stopped in radio contact for him, and limped it back in. And, it was really cool. Come over that final finish line, and, your whole crew, when you see them all there and they're all waiting for you, that's one of the best feelings in racing, is just seeing the people that support you. It's one thing to be sitting in the right seat or the left seat of a race car, but without those people in the pits doing all those things and spending their time, it's kind of a cool family thing, that we got going, especially with Romo's. Such a great group. And, it's one of those races. Yeah, we would like to win the race. Yeah, every single race we want to win, and that's what we go for. But sometimes things happen, and if you get the finish after having those problems, and you're able to fix them, if you have the parts and stuff, it feels good. So I think we finished 13th. Is where we finally ended up. So, which is
still really impressive for the fastest class. And I was listening on the Romo channel. I think it was one of your crew chiefs said, "Hey, lap 4, you guys, nobody's coming in. Just keep the car together." And then I started watching the video live cast. Like right as they're trying to figure out, does Piplick win? Who's going to win on corrected time? Sim's making up a lot of ground. but they had a live camera and nobody was coming, like
Right.
the same thing as our race, but probably worse because the course was so nasty and you guys had 40 cars. So that's even more attributed to how gnarly that course was, that very few people were coming in that last lap in your race.
Yeah. Shout out to Ryan Piplick, man, laying it down, and no pre-running. He didn't pre-run it once. And, like I said, that guy's, he's a fast driver and he goes for it. Shout out to him. And, Brandon Sims been around forever. I mean, that guy's won all the races that we want to win. There's just so many fast guys that we look up to that were at this race, and just being able to race with them. And, sometimes we can beat them and sometimes they beat us, but just seeing what a pace that they can carry, it just gives you that goal. You always look for the next guy. What can I do better? How can I be faster? How can I be a better co-rider or driver or any part of the team? And that's really what racing is about. You go back 2 years ago when I started racing with Romos, and the things that we've changed and the things that we've got better at, you guys will start experiencing that too. As you race more, you'll see that every race, it's never perfect. You always learn something. Like, for instance, the jack. We never prepped the jacks. We just, because we hadn't used them in like a year and a half, I think one flat that we got in the last year and a half, we were so close to the pit that we just drove to the pit. And, so now that's one thing that you learn, and you move on and you learn and you make sure that everything's working, and that's just another part of your prep. So.
Yeah, huge props to Ryan Piplick. I remember doing works races a long time ago and seeing him like being one of the guys who's part of the organizational staff, back in his quad days, I think. And then he said on the finish line, like you said, he didn't pre-run. He drove out and qualified and then drove back home, worked on Friday, and then drove up Saturday morning and raced and then won.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool.
No, it's pretty amazing. And, everybody knows what I race in and the vehicles that I support and, the company that I prefer. But hey, the podium, and I think
I know what you're leaning towards. I mean, Polaris, we're all three Polaris guys, and we get to talk smack at this race because I think Polaris is top 6 in the pro turbo class, in the big boy class.
Yep.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. And mind you,
they're just falling apart out there.
Mind you, there was some fast Can-Am guys there, guys that we really respect, but there was a few of the really fast guys that weren't there. Could have changed some things, but I think if those guys were there, it would have just made more attrition for everybody. It just changes. You add one racer and it changed the whole dynamic of the race. But not saying that I'm not happy that we swept it and everything was great, but at the same time, there are some fast Can-Am guys out there that have things dialed.
Yeah, and the Speed UTV that I think they were talking about, they were going to race. The new one didn't race. It was there. We can't talk about this event without talking about the Speed, because it did make its debut in real life to most of us normal folk. And I got to bring it up, man, because, the Speed hype is just at this level. We'll get into another podcast soon talking about the Sand Show, where it was there too. And the Sand Show booth was busier than Polaris and CanAm, maybe combined. But either way, at the race, Robbie pulls this thing out finally, or one of his guys. It doesn't even have shocks on it. He had a guy drive it straight across the country just to get it there. And there's a crowd of people waiting to take it out. We posted the video on Instagram. It's got almost 200,000 views. It's crazy the amount of hype for that car right now, where we were hoping that it would have been raced there, which would have been exciting. And that kind of is a good segue into a couple other cars that have been debatable should they be able to race, which is a turboed Honda and the car Robbie did race, which is a turboed Wildcat. And got to give props to your boy Elliot Watson there, Andrew El Centro Loco. He kicked butt, and I think the Honda's got 6th and 7th. They had a killer showing.
Yeah.
I thought it was
7th and 8th.
Robbie got 7th and 8th.
Yeah.
And Robbie was running top 3 for a while.
Yeah. Well. Yeah. Yep. He was for sure. I mean, that guy can drive. You can't ever take that away from Robbie Gordon, that he is a really good driver. But no, definitely got to give props to those guys. I don't know the Honda drivers too well, but yeah, anybody that can go out and do what we do and race and get a top 10, and I say that like top 10. People are like, oh, you didn't even make a podium or this or that. If you can get a top 10 in the pro production turbo class at any off-road race, in my book, you're a fast guy. You're really fast, because it takes a lot of work. And segue into that little conversation. It's like, I kind of feel as though, if they really wanted to be in the pro production turbo class and fit the rules of most race organizations, then Honda needs to step up and make a turbo car. Now, we both know that that's probably not going to happen for Honda or Kawasaki, but that doesn't mean that they can't race, and the best argument I heard is, yeah, well, let us race. Why is everybody afraid of us? They think that we're going to win it. And it has nothing to do with being fearful or anything like that. It's the fact that you can go to a Polaris shop and buy the turbo that is on our race car, and it's there. Everybody knows what it is. And these are the rules X, Y, and Z. Now, in every other off-road class and off-road, the unlimited class are the big dogs. A trophy truck spec, which has limitations on motor and things like that.
Tire size.
The unlimited trophy trucks don't have that, and they are the faster ones. Well, in side-by-sides, it's different. The unlimited class, most of the time, is not the fastest class.
Yeah,
so
we
my
can
argument,
be honest, real like Wes, like we race unlimited class because it's kind of like we're scared to race the big boys class. Like that's my take on it. No disrespect to anybody, but that just is what it is. It's not the premier class, and we thought it was a great segue for us. And like you said,
no, it's perfect.
Finished, but I agree with what you're saying. We usually don't agree on a lot of things, but I agree with where you're headed with this.
They have a place to race, and if they go to the unlimited class and Kawasaki throws a turbo on theirs, and Honda and Yamaha, they all throw turbos on their cars, and they're laying down times that are faster than pro production turbo fast factory guys, whether they're CanAm or whatever, or Polaris. I promise you that Polaris or CanAm will tell their boys, hey, we're going to go beat these guys. Like, we're going unlimited. We're going to do it. They have a place to race. They can race NA Pro. They can race Unlimited Pro. That's just my argument with it, because there's no way to know what actual power that those things are going to be putting out, or there are no limitations. But shout out to them, man. I mean, the Martellis let them race, and, they come out and they don't make a big stink about it. And they seem to be real good guys, and they're obviously well-funded team. And, they went out and got 2 top 10s and showed that the Hondas can run, and good for them,
But on the side note of the Hondas, they didn't run their big desert cars. They ran their little King of the Hammer cars. So
yeah, there were several people doing that, so it made sense. Though I mean, if we had a King of the Hammers car, we would have been running a King of the Hammers car too.
This was a 2C course, and I was going to say the same thing, Andrew. Their big desert cars were there, and I was hoping to see those things because they're a work of art. And it made sense why they did the short car, but I think both of these cars, when they got them done, like I think the first race of the year they really went big was King of the Hammers, and then COVID happened. So they really don't even have a lot of real racing chop experience. So that's another reason why they deserve big. I
think Vegas to Reno
cars top 10.
Yeah.
Did they race Vegas to Reno? I know that they raced the Mint. I know they didn't have a good showing at the Mint. They had some parts, but that was like their first race in those desert cars. But you're right. Those cars are a work of art. When I saw them, I was like, man, that is a good looking off-road car. I know they raced the 500. I thought they were down there racing the 500, but they also raced that in unlimited class because Score doesn't let them race production turbo. Best in Desert won't. I'm sure the new Legacy won't. The Martellis are a little bit different. They have 2 races, the Mint 400 and this race. They're going to let anybody who wants to race. Honestly, like, at least Honda has the produced cars, not to bash on speed or anything like that, but, the rules say that you have to have 1,000 produced units, not 1,000 ordered units. So, yeah. And Robbie's going to get there. He's going to have his turbo cars running, and there is a lot of hype behind those things. Robbie's he's been doing this for a long time. He understands what goes fast and what's going to work, and obviously everybody's excited. I'm excited also. I'm hoping to see that if it is as great as everybody's saying, or as great as Robbie's saying, or even a tenth of that for amount of what Robbie's saying, that it'll push the other manufacturers to update their stuff and make things better. And it's just going to progress the sport. This is not going to slow down. It's shown through and through that UTVs is one of the most affordable ways to enjoy your life outside and outdoors with your family, but also one of the most affordable ways that you can race a vehicle. And we're getting faster and faster. And in Best of Desert, and this year and last year, we were the biggest class. There was more UTVs than any other class in those races. And in most cases, just in the pro production turbo class, there was more entries than any other class.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think unless the vehicle comes off the showroom floor with the turbo, it's not allowed in pro production. It's just not fair. You're going to maybe get CanAm and Polaris to bow out if they let them do it and they started kicking butt. It's just, I totally agree with that. They should race unlimited. If they go lay it down in unlimited class and have the fastest lap times, they'll turn heads. They'll drag more people to their class. It might take a year or so. But, you know, glad that more people are playing ball. Honda's of the Japanese for sure is the most committed to racing. And then also even kind of promoting the turbo kit in general, maybe more so than Yamaha even did. Hopefully Kawasaki, I mean, they had McGrath through a couple races and such. I think he was racing this race with his daughter, I think. So hopefully the OEMs just continue to play ball, like you said. I mean, even COVID has been a huge benefit to this whole industry. Go to your local dealer. There's a slim chance you're going to find many of them on the floor right now. And the ones that are coming in are already pre-sold, I think Andrew was saying from talking to a couple of dealers, same what I've heard around the, around town. So, you know, it's only getting bigger. And at the end of the day, I have to say this event was great. I mean, I had a good experience. I thought it was a good value for the price of the entry fee and racing in Havasu. And now we have a race that was always in Laughlin, which we have a ton of races a year on Laughlin. Now I have a new venue. So it's different. It's new and exciting. And new is always better. And that really doesn't happen that often in our sport.
Yeah, definitely.
No, it's exciting, you know. It's also fun to go and race a race that isn't a points race. As we know that the Mint and the UTV World Championships both used to be points race that we race in Best of the Desert, and to be able to actually have a different mindset going into a race, it feels really good because getting to the end of the season when you're in the points race and things like that, you're thinking about, okay, I got to get finished no matter what, and that can sometimes slow you up a lot and have you be more conservative. In these types of races, you can actually run and go for it and go for wins, and that was exciting for a change. The stress of not worrying about points, you know.
We'll have to talk about that in the future if we have, you know, interview some other racers, like what they think about that racing for a series versus the clout or the upside of the sponsors or their personal gain if they're just going for individual race wins. I think that's something that's really interesting topic to talk about in our sport or in desert racing in general, you know, from almost all classes. So thank you guys for listening. We're going to wrap it up. Tune in for the next episode of our podcast where we got a little bit more to talk about current events, the Sand Show. So thank you guys for listening. Thank you guys for joining. It's fun as always. Check us out on YouTube. We are a company that manufactures accessories for side-by-sides, ChupacabraOffroad.com. You can find us everywhere on social, even the TikTok. We're out there. Chupacabra Offroad. So thanks for listening, everybody. We'll see you on the next one.